Urgent warning from Jordan Peterson about the endless enthusiasm about Bitcoin. Bitcoin 2022 press conference. At the Miami Beach Convention Center on Saturday, April the 9th, thousands of cryptocurrency enthusiasts watched a certain someone who had a profound effect on 35,000 attendees for their pretty realistic view on the future of Bitcoin. And by now you would know I'm talking about the controversial Canadian psychologist and author whose YouTube sermons have become very popular among young men. Yep, that's Jordan Peterson. Moreover, the Bitcoin press conference this year was full of hundreds of crypto-adjacent speakers from around the world who discussed digital currencies past, present, and future. The event was billed as the world's largest Bitcoin gathering. However, among these views, Dr. Peterson stood out like a thorn. And lucky for you, today we're going to look at that and discuss why Jordan Peterson is so concerned about Bitcoin's endless popularity. Are you curious? Want to know what Jordan is warning us about? Then stay with us until the end of this video and find the answers to your questions. Welcome to Crypto News Now, where as usual we demystify crypto and present it to you in a simple form. So let's get started without further ado. As stated earlier, you're probably aware that the Bitcoin 2022 press conference took place only a few miles across Biscayne Bay from Miami Mayor Francis Suarez's wannabe crypto capital of the world. And guess what? On this big occasion, high-profile crypto enthusiasts like Kevin O'Leary, Yeonmi Park, Dave Portnoy, Aaron Rodgers, Anthony Sacramucci, Peter Thiel, Andrew Yang, and of course Jordan Peterson were invited as speakers. Each of them is known to be a pretty influential person in their respective category. But what is fascinating is that other speakers expressed a very positive outlook on Bitcoin. But in the case of Jordan, his conversation with Saifedean Ammous, author of the Bitcoin Standard, started in such a way that it seemed almost bearish but concluded in a rather neutral way. In addition, he continued to explore cryptocurrencies on his podcast, the Jordan P. Peterson podcast, most notably in May, when he brought 4 Bitcoin aficionados to the program, and again in September when he discussed the digital currency with Saifedean Ammous, author of the Bitcoin Standard. As a result of his conversation with Ammous, Peter learned a lot and increased his investments in Bitcoin, and in November he tweeted, "Bought some more Bitcoin, inflation is damned." However, Ammous was not the only one who was impressed by Jordan's points, but most of the thousands of attendees at the Bitcoin conference who tweeted that a well-educated outside perspective on this matter is much appreciated. And with Peterson becoming more interested in Bitcoin over the past few months and appearing on podcasts with numerous Bitcoin advocates, his status as a public intellectual, author, and YouTuber with a clinical psychology background has grown considerably in recent years. Further, he made headlines in 2016 when he argued that the bill's clause outlawing discrimination based on gender identity would result in a sort of coerced speech. Similarly, now Peterson provided some new insights into the future of poster child of cryptocurrency. But what did he say? I guess most of you are waiting for that answer. So fundamentally, the press conference may be divided into 2 parts. And the first is that at his Bitcoin 2022 fireside talk, Jordan Peterson warned against unbridled exuberance. Second, while he stated that he is not gloomy and that it's not inherently critical of the ecosystem, he is concerned about the unforeseen effects of decentralization. As a result, Jordan Peterson, a psychologist and author, spent a substantial chunk of his Bitcoin 2022 fireside talk playing devil's advocate against the Bitcoin ecosystem. Despite this, Peterson emphasized that he wasn't giving a personal view, frequently using the phrase, "and I'm not saying it is," after expressing skepticism about the ecology. Nonetheless, he warned the Bitcoin community about the unexpected implications of decentralized money. But he still mentioned the fact that he was emphatic that centralized control impedes ethical results. Yet he was less certain about whether Bitcoin itself was the solution. So even though Peterson is wielding a double-edged sword, he has managed to keep it balanced. The idea of a decentralized monetary system, well, that is a revolutionary idea, and the more I thought about it, it makes me wary, he said. Cash, he said, is a decentralized system in and of itself, since it is almost untraceable. And thank God, he continued, since centralized organizations would certainly try to influence customers into making what they perceive to be ethical judgments, which of course they are unlikely to fully identify according to Peterson. Halfway through the meeting, it appeared that Peterson acquired a very positive view of Bitcoins. with the positives vastly outweighing the concerns. And with that, cheers erupted as Peterson speculated that the rise of Bitcoin may eventually remove money out of the hands of the political system. But Peterson went on to say, as a social scientist, it also worries me. Peterson warned listeners that new ideas can have unforeseen consequences, and it's difficult to predict whether or not all of them would be beneficial. We have no idea what would happen if money was decentralized, he said. If we manage that, let's say Bitcoin attains primacy. Is it irreversible? Is that permanent? And then you think, what if it's a bad idea and it's irreversible? While he stated that he is not gloomy about Bitcoin's impact, he is cautious. The likelihood that you design something really strong and it just does what you expect it to do, and all those things are wonderful, and that never happens. Further, according to Peterson, a fiat exodus would have ramifications for government authorities, but it's unclear what those ramifications would be. And though the action of central banks may be viewed as theft, the behavior of elected politicians may be questionable. He added, governments continue to give structure. Most of us assume that taxation is acceptable, or at least we don't strike up the revolution because it has occurred, he said. We seem to think that there is a role of government and for the determination that the government makes outside the free market. But the government has to exercise some control over currency, over money, to make its functions possible. Additionally, he went on to assert that free markets were an existential necessity, and that inefficient central economic planning was not conducive to a healthy society based on the history of the 20th century. Bitcoin prevents that from happening, he said, but still Peterson underlined his underlying support for free markets and less centralized power and control. He also ponders with the fear of the unknown, as we don't know what will happen if we take that control away. Nonetheless, he stated that his opinions are not intended to be critique of Bitcoin, but rather are a result of years of seeing social scientists conduct large-scale social experiments that inevitably fail. I'm not suggesting that you do anything as a result of this caution. I'm just saying that unbridled enthusiasm predicates on the assumption that your new system will only do the good things you think it will do. That's not wise, he said. But then again, he added, perhaps the best way forward is to let the free market decide. And if Bitcoin wins the battle of the currencies, so be it. So you can see why the whole conference clapped when Peterson stated this. After all this, you've got to love this guy. And as most people agree, he brings out the rationality in fear that changes the basis of money and the monetary system would have unanticipated consequences, not all of which would be entirely desirable or even achievable. After all, Bitcoin is an experiment, although a not-so-humble one, he claims, and moving control of the money away from the government and politicians implies that the people represented in the nation would also lose some influence. We don't know what would happen if money were decentralized, he muses. He also cautioned that if Bitcoin became dominant, the consequences would be irrevocable. Peterson pondered aloud whether this would be a good thing. But that isn't our topic today. In my opinion, what we heard today was very influential and might even have some domino effects that might be able to change the Bitcoin and even the cryptocurrency market as a whole in the near future. What will happen in time remains to be seen, but one thing is certain, Bitcoin is here to stay. However, according to Jordan, you can never be too cautious, so his final piece of advice is that Bitcoin may be undetermined. But with the right motions and keen observations, you may just be able to score amongst the chaos. Now that we've come to the end of this video, let us thank you all for staying with us till the end. Don't forget to like and let us know in the comments section what your views are regarding the thoughts of Jordan Peterson on Bitcoin. Also do mention if you have predictions of your own, or if you have some data analysis on BTC. If you found the video interesting, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you're new here, subscribe and click the bell icon. This way you'll be notified of all the future crypto and NFT news. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, peace out.